If you want more options for stroking paths than what you can get up here on the control bar, use the stroke panel, and there's a couple of ways of getting to it. If you still have the file open from the previous lesson, you can continue with it. If not, you can open up my version. I've called it Leaves 2, and you'll find it in the Chapter 5 folder of the project files. Let me zoom in on these leaves a little bit. I'll hold down the Alt key and roll the wheel, or however you want to zoom in is fine. Just use the spacebar and drag a little bit. So I have a custom stroke that I applied to the paths of these leaves. Have the regular selection tool active and just click the leaves. And what I did in the previous lesson was I applied a calligraphic effect to it, and that really isn't going to work in this lesson. So if you did that, go up here to the brush definition drop down, click that, and just set it to basic. And then you can just click off it. And now I have a pretty even, thin stroke around the outside of the leaves and the inside of the leaves. Leave it selected. And you see up here on the control bar where you have the word stroke, if you roll your mouse pointer over it, it says stroke panel. Click that and the stroke panel itself drops down. Now that's great and you can use it. The problem is it keeps going away every time you make a setting. So I'm just going to again click off it to get rid of it. And over here on the right side, about halfway down, you have stroke panel. Click it and you see it's the same thing, but this has the advantage that you can put your mouse on an empty spot here on the title bar and just drag it out onto the screen. So you can use it without it snapping back all the time. By the way, if you don't see all of the options here in the stroke panel like I have, there's a couple of things you can do. One is if you put your mouse pointer on this teeny tiny little two-headed arrow there, you can click that a few times. That will toggle the panel between showing various amounts of detail. Or in the upper right corner of the panel, you can click that drop-down context menu and choose Show Options from that little flyout. And if you do that, then you'll see all the options here that I have. And I'll just take this, maybe I'll make the leaves say a 2-point stroke. And let's zoom in on one of these leaves a little bit more. And take a look here at what's going on. We have the thickness here, it's uniform, we have some of these kind of pointy edges there. And that's what these corner buttons will do. So right now you see what's selected is miter join, but if you click the middle one here, you'll get a rounded join. And you see what happens is that wherever there's a corner, it's kind of rounded off. And if you choose the third one here, that's a bevel join, it'll kind of cut it off there. Think of maybe if you're creating a picture frame for your wall. And this is all formatting. None of this actually changes the underlying structure. If we go into Outline View, you can press Control-Y or Command-Y on the Mac, or go up to the View menu and choose Outline. You see we have still this pointiness, and if you choose any of these others, nothing happens in Outline View just because that's the underlying structure. Let's go back to regular preview mode. Another thing that we can do here is align the stroke to the outside of the wire or the center of the wire, which it is now by default, or the inside. And that's these buttons. But you notice that two of them are grayed out. Align stroke to center, I said that's the default, that's available. You can't click these. What we have to do first is we have to expand. That is, we have to turn the stroke into a separate object. So leave the leaves selected. Go up here to the Object menu, and down over here choose Expand Appearance. So I'm just going to click off the leaves here, and over here on the toolbar I'm going to choose the Direct Selection tool. Now with the Direct Selection tool, I'm going to click back on the path, and now you see Align Stroke is available. If I choose this one here, Align Stroke to the inside, you see what's happening. It goes the other direction. If I choose over here, Align Stroke to outside, then the formatting is on the outside of the stroke. Which is inside and which is outside kind of is the definition of Illustrator, but it's simply going to be the opposite one way or the other. So you can choose whichever one you like. Now on top here we have cap, and these are for the end caps of your object. But it's not going to work on these leaves here because end cap is only for an open path and these leaves are closed. So let's take a look down on the bottom of this drawing, or maybe I'll just use the rolly wheel to roll down to the bottom. Zoom out here a little bit, however you want to do it. And now we have the swish. select the swoosh, and you see it's just a regular line. We've got a Bezier handle there and another one there. If you want to go and take a look in outline view, you see it's just a plain old line. And you see by default we have the square end cap, and the end of this line here is square and it kind of tapers off. If we choose round cap, this gets rounded, and if we choose projecting cap, it looks the same, except you see it's projecting out from the edge of the line itself. So that's the difference between that and the default, which is butt cap. In other words, where does the formatting end? Does it end where the line itself ends, or does it come out a little bit? Right now in this doesn't seem to make much of a difference, but you might have other drawings where that's very critical. Also, maybe you want to apply an arrowhead. Over here, click the left arrowhead, and you see there's two drop-downs for arrowheads. One is for one side, the other is for the other side. So click this, and you see you have different arrow styles to choose from. Choose whichever one you like. And if you decide that maybe you want the arrow on the other side, you could either turn this off and turn this on, or you could hit this little switcheroo button. That's the technical name for it, switcheroo button. Now, if the arrowhead itself is too big, you can scale it down. You can use the up and down arrows, or you can just dial in a number. I'll try maybe 40%. Just type the number and either press the tab key or the enter key, and that makes it a little smaller. Maybe you want this as a dashed line. Click over here in the dashed line checkbox, and it'll probably give you some number here. And you get a dash, and it's pretty much even because this is 12 points. At least on mine it does. I have 12 point of line, and then 12 point of space, and then another 12 point of line, another 12 point of space. If I deselect it, you can get a better look at it. Nothing says it has to be even like that. Leave it selected, and over here, maybe I'll change this to 6 point for dash, and then I can put in a gap. And you see that changes to 6 point, 6 on, 6 off, 6 on, 6 off. But maybe I want the gap to be, let's say, 9 points, and just hit the tab key, and you see now the gap is a little bigger. Then maybe next to that I want a dash of, let's say, 12 points. So you could really put in some kind of crazy custom thing here. Think of Morse code. So you could have dash is where's the line, gap is where's the line not, and on and on. So you can get a very customized dashed line if you want. Now when you're creating a dashed line, sometimes you want to get the dashes and gaps to an exact size to fit the length of your line. And when that happens, the numbers here of your dashes and gaps might not add up to the length of your stroke. So if you take a look over here, we have these two boxes. What's selected by default is that basically Illustrator will adjust it for you, and it'll look at the ends here and then kind of make sure everything in the middle works. But if you don't want it to do that, if you want it to be exactly the way you specified it and not have Illustrator make any adjustments, then you can choose this option over here. Illustrator automatically adjusting it is what's the default. If you decide you don't want the line to be dashed at all, you can deselect it. It goes back smooth. This is all grayed out, but it does preserve the numbers for the next time you want to use it. So if you turn the dash line back on again, you still have those numbers. I'm going to leave it off. I think it looks better this way. But you can see that anything at all that you want to do with strokes except applying color, you will find here in the stroke panel.